Welcome back to the most unprofessional sports channel on YouTube. Welcome back to Swivel Chair Sports. I'm your host, Zach Circleberg Merkel, here with the host today, Aaron. Go and say hi, Aaron.
Hi.
Alright, please make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy our content. Other than that, let's go ahead and get into it. So, in this video, we'll be looking back at the NFC Championship game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Detroit Lions. Epic collapse for Detroit, unfortunately. We do have a video coming out later this week celebrating their amazing season. But unfortunately, that's not what this video is. We're probably going to criticize them a lot in this one. So, if you want to turn this off, Lions fans, I totally understand. But make sure you come back for that celebratory video. I'll make you proud, I promise. But as for this game, Aaron, man, what is there to say? Jared Goff and Dan Campbell, probably more so Dan Campbell, just threw up all over themselves in the second half of this one. Is there really... You want to elaborate for the folks?
I mean, he left 2 field goals on the board there. And, I mean, I guess everybody's saying that's their MO all season, that why change it? You know, just do what you've been doing all season. It's worked so far. But this is a completely... It's the playoffs, you know? This isn't week 6 regular season game.
Against the Bears.
There's a lot more at stake here. Especially that first one. You know, you could kind of feel the momentum switch there. The 49ers come out of halftime, kick a field goal. Lions are marching. They get down and get to a fourth down. They've got a chance to make it a 3-possession game again, and then they turn it over on downs. Obviously, Reynolds probably should have made that catch. I don't think Goff played all that bad. Other than, you know, him just not doing well with pressure, which is nothing new.
Yeah.
That fourth down was really kind of the start of it. You know, the 49ers go down, they score a touchdown, and then one play drive by the Lions, they fumble again, and then boom, another touchdown for the 49ers. There is a tie ball game.
Yeah.
So that first one really was kind of the start of everything, and then the second one, you've got a chance to tie the game there, you know, and maybe put a little bit of pressure on them, like on the 49ers, saying, all right, maybe this isn't, you know, we don't have this quite yet. Put a little pressure on Purdy, but I don't know. I just don't agree with. You've got 3 points there, you know. In a game of this magnitude, I think you take those 3 points both of those times.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A lot of people that are, you know, pro going for it, they'll come out and say, like, well, the analytics say, and I heard a lot of people who are anti go for it come out and be like, well, yeah, but the analytics, you know, you throw those out the window when it comes playoff time. And that's kind of the side I, you know, tend to lean towards. When it comes playoff time, you know, it's not the same, you know, strategy that you're using in the regular season games. This isn't week 6 against Chicago. This isn't week 8 against Arizona or whatever, you know, where you can go for it on fourth down. And if you don't get it, big deal. You're playing a team that's worse than you in a regular season game. You should be able to overcome it in that scenario. But you mentioned this in our prediction video last week. The Niners are not a team you can do that against. And I think I'd even mentioned it earlier in the postseason before the Rams game in the first round. I said, like, if there's anything that's going to hurt the Lions, if there's anything that's going to end their Lions season earlier than it should, which going into the playoffs, NFC Championship game, you're probably thinking like, oh, if we end there, that's not earlier than we should, you know, that's not earlier than we should go out. That's exceeding expectations, which, yeah, it probably is. But when you're up 17 points at halftime with a chance to go to the Super Bowl, you got to win that game. And I said Dan Campbell's aggressiveness was probably going to cost the Lions. I was a couple rounds early, but he ended up costing the Lions. You got to take the points. I agree with you there. I love the aggressive nature. I really do. But when it comes to that, like you also have to have situational awareness. You have to know what's going on at a certain point in a football game when you're making that call. You can't just be like, oh, we do this every time, so we're going to do it again, you know? Sometimes, not all scenarios are made the same. You know, you gotta,
Momentum is real.
yeah, momentum is real. Momentum is a,
Momentum is a very real thing. And you know, there in that first one, you've got a chance to sort of tell San Francisco field goals aren't going to cut it here. You
mm-hmm,
just got one. We're just going to add one right back. Sort
mm-hmm,
of flatten that momentum curve a little bit and say you're going to have to go put it on us real quick
yeah.
because field goals aren't going to cut it. And then they obviously go for it, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it's not Madden. You gotta you gotta just take the points sometimes. It's not Madden. Um, Obviously, Dan Campbell came out after the game, uh, told the media a little bit about what he said to his players after the heartbreaking loss, saying that this may be the only time we ever get here. I've seen people take this two different ways. Um, some people are saying like, man, after a game like that, after a loss like that, that's not the time to say something like that. You know, that's something you say like pregame to hype them up. Be like, man, this might be the only opportunity we get, guys. We better go out there and leave it all on the field. But to say it after a heartbreaking loss like that, maybe not the best. You know, maybe read the room a little bit. In my opinion, I lean the other way, which is like maybe he's wants his players to go into the offseason because, I mean, obviously it's a young team. A lot of these guys are coming back next year. Ben Johnson, the OC, officially said he's coming back next year. Um, Maybe that was his way of motivating them this offseason to be like, hey, man, you know, this is not easy to get here. This may be the only chance we get. So if you don't go out there this offseason and bust your tail, we may never be back in this situation again. So it's up to you guys. Where do you kind of sit on that matter? Like whether or not he approached it the right way.
I mean, I think some of it comes down to, individuals in the locker room, how they take that remark. I personally don't have any problem with it. I think Dan Campbell is a lot of things, but he's not a bullshitter. And it's true.
Yeah.
Look at the laundry list of teams that, they make a conference championship appearance, and then they're just absolutely
Oh
nothing the
yeah.
next season, whether it be from injuries derailing their season or losing a couple free agents.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard in the NFL to be consistent,
Yeah.
especially consistently in the playoffs and the conference championship, which is why it's so impressive when, like the Cowboys used to do it, when the Patriots did it, now when the Chiefs are doing it. So it's true what he's saying. I don't have a problem with what he said.
Yeah. I mean, you go back. You don't have to go back that far to look at some teams that like have kind of suffered at the fate of the whole like. Excuse me, jeez. That have suffered at the fate of the whole like. Oh, we'll be back next year. Just look at the Bills from a few years ago when they lost to the Chiefs. Stephon Diggs standing out there watching the confetti fall. Haven't been back since. You go back, you look at Phillip Rivers back in like '07 or whatever with LT having the like greatest season a running backs have ever had. Oh, we'll be back next year. Never made it back. You look at Mark Sanchez, you know, the New York Jets team that he took to the AFC Championship game 2 years in a row. Lost to the Patriots once, I think the Ravens the other time. Um, Never made it back. So it's not easy to get back. I think I think what he said probably needed to be heard from some guys because I bet you there were some people maybe I don't want to specifically name names but like in the age group of like the Sam Laportas and the Jameer Gibbs and the Brian Branches, you know, the young guys, not again not saying those guys specifically were thinking this way, but you know the younger guys on the team with it being a team of largely young players, I'm positive there were definitely some guys in the locker room that would be like, man, this sucks, but we're going to be back here next year. It's not that easy. And I think maybe that those comments post game hopefully rung true with a lot of those players and they take it into the offseason and use that as motivation to get back next year. Um, but enough talk about the Lions. Let's go ahead and celebrate the Niners a little bit. They are the ones who came back from that deficit, ended up winning the game, are going on to the Super Bowl to face the Chiefs for the second time in the last 4 years or 5 years. Um, what do you think of Brock Purdy coming from behind once again? Obviously, neither of us were really quick to give him credit for the previous week's performance, with him playing so poorly in the first few quarters. And man, I feel like we're getting more and more into hypocrite territory. I don't. It's This is getting hard to continually doubt the guy because he just continues to go out there and do crap like that. Which, again, a lot of that was on Dan Campbell's. But what are your thoughts on Brock Purdy this game? I'll just let you go ahead and take the reins on that one.
I mean, he came back and he won the game. Was I super impressed with his performance? No. Is he good enough to take, a stacked team like this to the Super Bowl? Obviously, because he just did it. With that being said, there was somewhat a degree of luck to it, and I mean, not there kind of has to be going down,
Sure.
17 and coming back.
That Brandon Ayuk catch, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Chiefs when they were down to the Texans a few years ago. They were stupid enough to do a fake punt and gave us, a short field to help us get right back into that game. So there has to be a degree of luck for you to be able to get back into a game like that. And that them going for it on, fourth down and field goal territory twice, that helps. That's a degree of luck. That catch from Ayuk off of the defender's face mask, that's certainly a sort of luck. So credit to them. They made the plays that they needed to make to win the game. And Brock Purdy, I think some people keep sort of moving the goalpost on him. My goalposts have been set from day one. He's not the most talented guy, but he's good enough to win you a lot of games.
Yeah. No, I've said he's a rich man's Baker Mayfield. I think that's a little discrediting towards him. The deeper he gets into this playoff run, I will want to admit that. I don't think the Baker comparison's fair. I saw Chris Broussard on First Things First compared him to. Now he didn't. Okay, I don't want to misquote the guy but he tried to talk around this several times. He compared him to Drew. He said he reminds him of Drew Brees, but he didn't. He wanted to specifically say he was not comparing him to Drew Brees, but Brock Purdy reminds him of Drew Brees. So take that with what you want. But I kind of understand what he means. Maybe like a Drew Brees in San Diego at the time. Maybe like a Drew Brees in San Diego or early New Orleans days. Before he was, or I don't know. Maybe I've got this backwards. Maybe it is after he got Sean Payton, and Sean Payton put the system around him to be great. Maybe we've been looking at Drew Brees wrong all these years. Maybe Drew Brees isn't as good as we all thought he was all these years. I don't know how he's catching all these strays all of a sudden, but with Purdy
Don't you ruin our childhood, damn it.
With Purdy being compared to like Joe Montana and Steve Young and now Drew Brees, where do you think he kind of falls in like the quarterback play style, I guess, if you want to say? Because I can't quite, with the amount of weapons he has, with the Brandon Ayuk and the Deebo Samuel and the Christian McCaffrey and the George Kittle and the Trent Williams, it's hard to tell what his play style is. Like Mahomes, even with all those players, you knew his play style, at least the first few years, was improvise, extend a play, get outside the pocket, and find a man downfield. Purdy, it kind of feels similar to Drew Brees, or maybe it's just like slant boy, yeah, that's me.
Just kind of off the top of my head, he reminds me of a mix between Brett Favre and Alex Smith, in the sense that when he's got a lead, he protects the football. He does what you need to do to win games.
Well, that's the Alex Smith. I don't see Brett Favre.
He's not overly flashy. He doesn't need to do a whole lot, but when the game's close or when they're down, he goes out there, he makes a couple more risky throws. He's willing to put the ball in line. He'll turn it over a little bit, and he's not necessarily scared. And he'll go out there and he'll make plays, kind of put his body on the line. We saw that with his using his legs in the second half. So that's where I think that sort of mix. I think it kind of depends on the situation that they're in.
Yeah, okay, okay. So at first when you said Brett Favre, I was like, "What the fuck are you talking?" I'm like, I thought you were insane. I did not get that comparison at all. I was like, "Oh, what? Whoa!" But after you explained it, I kind of get what you're saying because, like, yeah, very Alex Smith esque with a big lead, I guess you could say. Where yeah, he's not going to blow well. I don't even know if you could say that about Alex Smith though, because we were just talking about the 2014 playoffs against the Colts, but where Alex Smith was the quarterback of that team.
For the
So
most part.
for the most part, I guess, or the yeah, or the Titans game,
Playoff. Alex Smith in the playoffs was very different from Alex Smith in the regular season.
Yeah,
And
okay,
Andy Reid calling plays back then is very different from
true,
Andy Reid calling plays for Patrick Mahomes.
true. But no, I kind of get what you mean. Yeah, with the tight game, he does tend to be a little bit riskier with it. I think you saw that in the or when they're playing from behind and trying to get back into a game, he's riskier with it, like you saw in that Ravens game where he threw I think it was 3 or 4 picks, which is very uncharacteristic of him. But one thing you can't say is he was shy. He was not shy to throw it downfield after throwing all those picks. He kept chucking. So that is something. There is something to be said for that, for sure. Do you? I think they're gonna. Do you think he's good enough to get him over the big bad Chiefs? You know, the new Darth Vaders of the NFL, the evil empire that is Kansas City. No, no, I don't. Um, and I know that's probably gonna piss a lot of Niners fans off. Um, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go ahead and let my bias show. Yeah, no, I think the Chiefs are defense is too good. Um, I think the AFC was supremely better than the NFC, especially this year. The Chiefs went through a gauntlet in the playoffs. You can say what you want about injuries, but going through the Dolphins' offense, I don't care how cold it was. You know, they still have some of the fastest freaking players in the NFL. They still have one of the best offensive players, period, in Tyreek Hill. They had to go through the Buffalo Bills, who were, as hot as they've ever been. A team that everybody said was going to beat the Chiefs. The 2 seed. They went from out of the playoffs, the 10 seed in the AFC, to the 2 seed. Hottest team in the league. Beat them. Go into the AFC Championship game. Go up against, the best defense we've seen since the '85 Bears in the Baltimore Ravens. Beat them. So, no, I don't think the Niners have had near the test that the Chiefs have had, and I don't think Brock Purdy is ready for this moment. What do you think?
I think if they come out and start like they have these last 2 games slow, and the Chiefs come out like they have and score a couple touchdowns in the first half, 17-ish points, something like that, then the 49ers could be in real trouble because the Chiefs aren't the Lions. They don't have Dan Campbell at head coach, going for it in field goal range. We've got a good kicker. We've got one of the best kickers in the league. We've got the best quarterback in the league for the past 6 years, So I think them going down early, especially multiple touchdowns plus, that's going to be a real problem for them.
Yeah. But we'll have a predictions video out for the Super Bowl next week. So be on the lookout for that. We had a recap video for Ravens Chiefs that, if it hasn't come out yet, it will be out this week. So be on the lookout for that. But other than that, unless you got anything else, I think that'll do it for this episode of the most unprofessional sports channel on YouTube, Swivel Chair Sports. I've been your host, Zach Circleberg Merkel, here with my co-host today, Aaron. Go and say bye, Aaron.
Bye.
All right. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Other than that, deuces.